What is up, guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV. In today's video, I am bringing you guys a very important discussion. I am going to be discussing with you all my approach to investing in the 2019 Megatins. Now, I don't think it's any secret that I'm a really big fan of this product. I think that they provide absolutely amazing value. I know that a lot of people are going to be looking to pick up these Megatins, and with very good reason. The new promo cards that we're getting are absolutely game-changing, and everyone is going to be wanting like a play set of each. And we're also going to be seeing some really good cards and archetypes reprinted in this set that both competitive and casual players are going to want to pick up. Now, what I want to do in this video is share with you all my approach to these Megatins. So I want to look at what cards and archetypes I think are going to make solid investments as cards that you should hold onto, and then also discuss some cards that I think might be overvalued that should be sold closer to the release of the Megatins. So buckle up, this is going to be a bit of a longer video, but I hope that you guys all stick through it because there's a lot of important things that we're going to be discussing. Let's get started. Okay, so first up, let's talk about the promos. And honestly, these are some of the most ridiculously good promos that we have ever seen. I'm not just talking about the World Premier cards, I mean all of them as a whole. So we can typically determine just how great the promos are by looking at what percentage of the cost of the tin we can expect to make back from the promos alone. And really, the last time I can think of a tin where we got promos of this quality and value come way back in 2012 when we got Hanzo, Tour Guide, Shockmaster, and Max C all in one tin, and we found ourselves making back like at least half the cost of the tin right off the bat from the promos alone. So let's assume here that we're spending approximately $20 per Megatin that we open. I know some of you who ordered cases probably paid a lot less, but we're going to go with a more conservative number because this is roughly what the average player is going to be paying for a single tin at their locals. So two of the promos are going to be the imports and can be either Red Eyes Alternative Black Dragon, Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon, Magician of Black Chaos Max, Exodia the Legendary Defender, Palladium Oracle Mana, or Neo Kaiser Glider. Now, these cards aren't necessarily the most competitive, however, as revamps or remakes of really iconic cards, combined with the fact that they realistically aren't going to be reprinted for a while, I'd expect these to be fairly easy cards to move eventually. These cards are definitely going to appeal to a lot of casual players looking to collect or build character decks. So for the sake of argument, let's put these promos at around $1 a piece. So that's $2 in value back right there. Personally, I'm also going to note here that if you can pick up these promos, except for maybe Neo Kaiser Glider we're going to stay away from, for around 50 cents in cash or $1 in trade, then these are going to make excellent pickups for you guys to hold onto. Next up, in slots 3 and 4, they can be filled with prismatic secret rare versions of either Raigeki, Monster Reborn, Obelisk the Tormentor, Slifer the Sky Dragon, or the Winged Dragon of Ra. So prior to this, even the cheapest copy of Raigeki from, I believe, Legendary Collection Kaiba was sitting at like $5 to $7 at least, and holo copies of Monster Reborn were at least like $3 or $4. Also, holo reprints of God cards are always worth picking up because of how iconic the cards are. There always just seems to be a constant like demand for them from lots of casual or returning players, and as a result, the prices of them always seem to rebound for at least a little bit. Now, all of these cards, $1 a piece definitely seems cheap. Like at $1 a piece, I would be hoarding these cards like ridiculously. So we're gonna say that these are around $2 a piece in value. So we're getting about $4 in value back here. And then finally, we have the World Premier promos. Now, there are a lot of different pre-sale prices running around, and it's kind of difficult to estimate which is the most accurate because most of the time our tin promos have been reprints before, right? So like, we saw good promos like not Proxy Dragon, Pot of Desires, or Maxi or Tour Guide, like cards like that, but those were all reprints. So maybe the closest comparison that we can come to here is something like Elder Entity Norden. Since it was first brought over to the TCG as a tin promo, the way that tin promos usually work price-wise is that the pre-sales will start off super high, and then they dip as we get closer to the release of the tins. However, then the tins drop and the prices tank right? Because everyone sees that all of these tins are being opened and people are assuming that there's just like a massive supply, so they're all waiting to get the cheapest copies possible. So the price is kind of going to drive itself down a little bit. However, I think that ultimately people overestimate just how far the prices are going to drop. And then after like a few weeks, we see the prices of the good promos start to rebound because everyone is finding that they need to pick up their playsets, right? This time I'm expecting this rebound to be even bigger than it normally would be, especially since you aren't guaranteed certain promos, right? It's not like you're buying this tin and you know what promos you're gonna get. There's still like theoretically roughly a 1 in 3 chance that you're going to get the world premiere promo card that you really want. So what I'm estimating is that in the first week of the tins being released, at least, we're gonna see Dark Ruler No More and Nibiru each at around $5 and Dimension Shifter at around $2. So averaging them out here, let's say that the expected value of this last promo slot is $4. If you guys can pick them up for $4 to $5, I would definitely do that, especially if it's in trade, because I think that over the next few months, we are actually going to see the value of these promos rise bit by bit. But anyways, in total, we have 2 $1 cards, 2 $2 cards, and then 1 roughly $4 card. So we can expect to make back approximately $10 on just the promo cards alone. What this means is that we're paying about $10, right, the remaining cost of the tin, for the 3 mega packs, which is roughly $1 per holo card. And given the quality of the cards in this set that are actually included in the packs, I think that this is absolutely amazing value. So as far as engines go, I believe that the Danger engine is one that you should absolutely be picking up when the mega tins drop. I'm expecting the Danger engine to be incredibly strong going forward, even in a format with cards like Nibiru and Dark Ruler No More. These aren't cards that depend on anything else in order to function. They help out decks by putting bodies onto the board, providing that additional draw support, and can also help to put key cards into the graveyard as well. Even with the ban list holding Jackalope, Nessie, and Tsuchinoko at 2, I still believe that this engine is going to be one of the strongest and most splashable available currently in the game. That being said, I definitely think that these cards are going to be some of the most highly sought after in the set. However, at the moment, they are all fairly affordable. The card that's most expensive right now for pre-order is like Nessie, which is still sitting at only around $10. Honestly, I think there's nothing wrong with picking up copies of cards like Jackalope or Tsuchinoko for anywhere from like $5 to $7 a piece, and then maybe paying like 20 bucks for a couple of Nessies. That's honestly not that bad. Now, these cards aren't going to be dirt cheap or anything, but I do get the feeling that these cards are going to survive the October ban list and continue to impact competitive play pretty heavily. I can see the engine getting hit later down the line, especially if it continues to be abused in absolutely everything the way that it was before. However, given how cheap the prices currently are relative to how expensive we've seen the cards get in the past, I would definitely recommend picking up your sets of everything pretty close to the release of this set. Okay, next up for cards that I would be picking up, I'm looking at a few different, more generic staple type cards that aren't really specific to any one deck. So Prismatic Secret Rare Called by the Grave is going to be one of the chase cards in this set as the highest available rarity of this card. And honestly, like, the Prismatic Secret Rare version is just so beautiful. Unless we get something like an Ultimate Rare Called by the Grave, or we see this card randomly like on the ban list again, I see it continuing to climb up in price gradually. Red Reboot and World Legacy Succession are two other more generic cards that I might be looking into picking up. Red Reboot at only $3 seems like a pretty decent buy for a Prismatic Secret Rare, right? It's going to be the highest available version of the card forever, most likely. World Legacy Succession at only $6 or $7, that does still seem a little bit high, even though we have seen it peak at like that $15 price point before. I personally am going to be waiting until they drop to around $3 to $4 before I snag them, or if you can get them for like $5 in trade, that's not too bad either. For all of these cards, expect to see the prices and demand for them fluctuate a bit depending on the format and exactly how much each of them is played. However, as Prismatic Secret Rares, these will likely be the highest rarity prints that we see any of these cards in ever. So even when they aren't seeing much play, I'd still expect them to be relatively safe to hold onto and have them retain some value. Next, let's talk for a quick second about incantations. Now, I absolutely love these cards. I think they are ridiculously good because they all bring each other out of the deck and they search or add from the graveyard and they put these free bodies on board that can then be tributed off. I think that the only reason that we haven't really seen too much anticipation for these cards is the fact that there are currently not really any good ritual decks in the format right now. Like, we've had the odd top here or there from Necros, but nothing that's proven to be super consistent or meta. As a result, I think that these cards are going to be really cheap. Like, we're talking like 25-50 cents, maybe $1 a piece. However, I'm personally going to be buying these up every chance I get because I believe that as soon as we get a decent ritual deck introduced into the meta, these cards are all going to go way up in price as the only holo versions available. Now, you may be holding onto them for quite a while, but I believe it is a very safe, cheap investment that you can gradually add to over time. So there are a few other cards that I was looking at which kind of seemed a bit undervalued. So Ibli is the first one, and while the whole Orchist Nightmare kind of hype is over with, Ibli might be a card that is worth holding if you can get a few copies of them for just a couple dollars or so. If you get to put it onto your opponent's side of the field, it does stop them from summoning, which means that they can't use Nibiru against you, which is kind of a cool interaction there. Shout out to McGriddle for pointing that out in the comment section of a previous video. Vampire Sucker is another card that I personally think is going to be really cheap when the Megatins drop, right? The only reason that it had such a high price point is because there was only the one print of it, but it never really found its way into the meta. I do think that at some point, Vampire Sucker is going to find a way to climb back up in price. Zombies always seem to be like a really big favorite of a lot of casual players. It's a kind of fun niche deck that you can build pretty easily. All it's going to take is for one or two good zombie support cards to come out for Vampire Sucker to see an instant increase in price. And then finally, Dawn Dragster is finally coming out as a holo, but it is quite cheap from what I can see on pre-orders. I think that this is definitely something to keep an eye on, as it is the only holo print of a really good like level 7 synchro that's generic, that can negate cards. It's really easy to make with something like Destrudo as well, so if you can grab it for fairly cheap, I definitely recommend doing so. Okay, so next we have a few different generic extra deck monsters that are potentially going to make really good pickups. We have another reprint of Borrelsword Dragon, and I think that this might finally be the last short print reprint that we get of it. If we look at Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, right, we had Ash Blossom's original print, then we had the Legendary Collection Kaiba Ultra, and then the Shadows in Valhalla Super, and both of those reprints were short prints before it got mass release for us in the structure deck. And I think Borrelsword is going to follow a very similar pattern. We had its original print in Cybernetic Horizon, which was a short print. Then we had the short print reprint in Battles of Legend, and then now in the Megatins, so it wouldn't really surprise me at all if we saw Borrelsword Dragon reprinted in something like Dual Devastator, so that it's finally available for absolutely everyone to have a copy of because of how generically good the card is. Nightmare Unicorn and Topologic Trisbana each only had one print before this set, which is why they still retain some value, but now they're actually extremely affordable. These are really good cards, so if you guys didn't have one before, I would definitely recommend picking up at least one copy of each, as they do provide very good extra deck utility that all players should have access to, especially Nightmare Unicorn, right, being only like a $5 card in this set, where we've seen it hit as high as $40 in the past. However, I can see them being reprinted in Dual Devastator as well, so while I do recommend holding on to at least the one copy, they might not be the best cards to make mass investments into. Alright guys, so I know I probably sound a bit like a broken record here, but I would absolutely be moving the Sky Striker stuff that you pull from the tins or have been holding onto from before, because it is almost certainly going to be obliterated on the upcoming ban list. Namely, here we're just talking about Engage though, because it's the only expensive card left in the deck, and even then the reprints from the Megatins are only going to be like $5 or so. So honestly, at this point, if you're looking to get a set of Ultras, go ahead and play like your set, since you're looking at like $20 to $30 for an entire Sky Striker core at the moment, which seems absolutely crazy, right? But if you have like either of the secret rare prints, I believe that those are still worth a bit more right now. So I definitely try to move those before they got any lower in terms of price. However, I do want to note that the prismatic secret rare link monsters are absolutely beautiful, so much so that I would actually consider playing them over ultimate rares. Also, I do want you guys to keep in mind that the next ban list isn't coming out until October. So if you want to play like a really good top tier deck for like a month that's also really cheap, now is about as good a chance as you are ever going to get. The next set of cards that I want to talk about here is Thunder Dragons, and personally I am going to go with recommending these as cards to move between the upcoming ban list and the new world premiere cards that we're going to be seeing. I think that Thunder Dragons are the deck that is least likely to survive the upcoming changes to the meta. This deck is really quite heavily affected by both Dark Ruler No More and Nibiru. Dark Ruler No More shuts off the effects of monsters like Titan and Colossus, which are two really key monsters that the deck aims to end on, at least in pure builds. And then even in the variants of the deck like Thunder Dragon with Dangers or Chaos, those decks tend to be more summon heavy, and they're very easily disrupted by something like Nibiru, and the deck can't really recover from something like that. And then finally, the deck came out like in October last year when Soul Fusion came out. So by the time that the next ban list comes out, the deck will have been out for a full year. I'm not sure exactly how they are going to hit the deck, but I could see them following a trend similar to the OCG where they did hit Colossus and Dragonhawk, which would be really like big in terms of neutering the deck. So these potential ban list hits combined with the impact of the new promos tell me that the deck is actually going to be fairly short-lived. So this is one that I would definitely not be holding onto for very long. And finally, there are a few other things I want to talk about. So Crusadia and Thunder Dragon are both decks that want to go second and OTK your opponent. At the same time, they're both pretty heavily affected by something like Nibiru, and will each have kind of a hard time setting up going second if we do enter a more control-based, back row heavy format. I mean, realistically, I don't see either of them getting hit on the ban list, but at the same time, I don't see either of them really consistently topping as part of the meta. I am going to say that if you want to play them, go ahead and pick them up, but don't expect them to make you any money as far as going up in price goes. Cyber Dragon is nice because previously a lot of stuff was harder to get, even though now you still have to get copies of Nashter and Emergency. Crusadia is cool because so many cards in the deck were previously only available as commons, and now they're all coming as holos. And honestly, they're like really nice. There's a bunch of prismatic secret rares. I'm probably gonna grab a set of each and just let them sit in my binder forever because they're nice to look at. And then finally, we have Trap Trick. So Trap Trick is at kind of a weird place in the market, right? We've seen the secret rare print get crazy high up there, like up to $40. And now the reprints are pre-selling for about $6, which still seems a bit high, especially for that type of card. However, as of late, like we haven't really seen any like big decks that are playing Trap Trick. Its prime kind of came when we really needed to get Metaverse or Artifact Sanctum, because getting out Mystic Mine or Scythe would basically like end your opponent's entire turn. However, with the format turning to more back row with Dark Ruler No More and Nibiru, it is kind of important to have that little bit more flexibility in your back row. I am going to say that Trap Tricks for now to me is a sell. However, I would definitely be keeping a close eye on its price over the coming months. And if it ever drops down to about that $2 to $3 price point, that's when I would start grabbing a few copies, because there's always potential for it to gain a spot back in the meta again. Alright guys, that is it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'm definitely looking forward to heading to locals this weekend to get some trading done, because honestly, like the buying, the selling, the trading, that is one of my favorite parts of the game, which I hope you guys can tell because of all the market watches that I post here. I wish all of you guys the best of luck when you go to your locals, and hopefully you pull broken from all of your megatins. Anyways, I hope that you guys found this video to be helpful, and I hope that because of it, some of you guys have a better idea of what cards you guys want to try and trade for as the megatins come out this weekend. If you guys did find this helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you guys could slam that thumbs up button for me, and be sure to leave a comment down below if you guys want to drop some of your own insights on the Megatons, maybe something that I missed or a card that I overlooked. And of course, make sure that you guys hit the subscribe button, because Tombox and myself, we have lots of content that we are going to be bringing to you guys constantly, so that you guys can always be as updated and knowledgeable about the game of Yu-Gi-Oh as possible. So yeah, until next time, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.